A visionary process in which, for example, quite often you feel your entire body being taken apart and then put back together again. And when you're back together again, you're starting to acquire the abilities to travel through time and space. Your entire body you start a visionary process.
This is the Drunken Therapist broadcast, and I will be rotating through here on occasion. We're here to talk about things that folks may not think about on a regular basis. Maybe you do. I don't know. But we want to talk about those things that are unknown, a taboo, or maybe just give you something new to think on. We sit around, shoot the beep, and wonder about life. Have fun listening, guys.
Hi, welcome to episode 4 of the Drunken Therapist podcast. My name's Derek, and I am with Janet, and we're going to talk about metaphysics today. Janet, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Not too bad. It's Sunday and it's nice out.
And we're waiting for a drink.
Oh, here we go.
Thank you.
So metaphysics is one of my favorite topics. I like to incorporate it not just into my regular life, but also into my therapy practice. There's a lot of different things about it, but first, I guess we should maybe define what metaphysics is. Are you okay? What are we drinking here?
But it burns.
It burns?
It does.
Something that burns.
Right? Yeah.
So, Janet, can you define what metaphysics is?
Well, I mean, the way I look at it is kind of thinking outside the box, questioning things that don't exactly have concrete evidence, just being an open thinker.
Mm-hmm. I think metaphysics, what metaphysics encompasses is all those types of things that our society tends to label as crazy or supernatural, or things that just don't flow with how most people think and feel about a whole host of different topics. When it comes to things as angels or crystals or ghosts, all those different types of things. People tend to dismiss them. And I think that for the people that are interested in those areas, which, if you look out there, there's a bunch of people that are very open about this topic. And I find myself, and I don't know what I believe in when it comes to a lot of things, but there are certain things that, definitely resonate more with me than other things. I know Jan and I definitely got into crystals really bad. I actually get made fun of because I'm really obsessed, but and Janet, you you have a crystal thing too.
I do. I love my crystals. I'm working on making an amethyst table.
Amethyst, which is the most common crystal, it's the purple one that you see. The theory behind crystals is that there's a lot of different metaphysical properties that each crystal possesses. One crystal may vibrate at a certain energy that helps activate your chakras. Chakras, whole other topic area. There's 7 different chakras in you, starting from your groin area basically, and working yourself all the way up to the top of your head. It actually goes in line with the colors of the rainbow. The first one would be your root chakra, which is red. Mm-hmm. That refers to your grounding, your feelings of safety, security, your needs being met. Then you have your sacral chakra, which is probably right where your intestines are. That more so has to do with your emotions. Then you have your solar plexus, which is, your upper abdomen. And that one's yellow, and that refers to power, will. Then you have your heart chakra, which is green, and that's, where your heart is area. Then you have your throat chakra, which is blue, and that's where your throat is. That has to do with, communication, speech, truth. Then you have your third eye chakra, and that's between your eyebrows, basically. And there's a whole, your third eye chakra is a whole other host of conversations to get into. Basically, the simplest way to explain it is that it's the entrance into the spiritual realm. It's your intuition. It's when you know things and you're not quite sure how you know them. And your last chakra, which is purple, is your crown chakra, and that basically has to do with, knowledge, wisdom, that kind of thing. And there's a whole theory that basically says that our energy flows through these chakra systems, and if one of those areas is blocked, we have physical problems, we have emotional problems, we have mental problems. And this tradition, I believe, comes from India. But there's a whole host of meditations. If you look on YouTube, it's C-H-A... I'm bad at spelling things. C-H-A-R-K-A. Chakras. And basically what they believe that crystals do, getting back to crystals, is that each of those crystals vibrates at a certain energy that hits one of those chakra areas. And you can do a whole host of things with crystals. You can get pocket stones from, like any type of shop that sells this type of things, like those holistic, new age type stores. And, I keep one in my pocket all the time, and I hold it if I'm, like, having a moment of not feeling clear or feeling anxious or stressed or something. And, for me, like, it's something where I do believe that it helps assist me with that. Now, if you don't believe in something like that, here's where metaphysics can enter into the mental health realm where we do therapy, is it's the same thing as a worry stone. We encourage clients to have an object that they hold that grounds them, that brings them back to the present moment. In the present moment, and that's a whole other topic that we can get into as well. But
I have crystals all throughout the house, and it just creates a peaceful environment, I feel, too. So even though I'm not one of those people that can say that I feel the vibrations from the crystals, how some people say, do you remember the one lady at the holistic fair? She says, I could feel the vibrations.
She's like,
as soon as you came in.
She said, I know this is yours.
Yeah, I don't know what she means, because I've never experienced it, but it doesn't mean that it's not real. And that's kind of what I meant earlier when I was saying you think about the outside the box. That's what it's about. And although I don't know that experience, some people do. So I don't dismiss it. But I know that in my home, I feel that it creates just a peaceful environment. People come in and they're relaxed.
Plus, they're pretty to look at.
They are very pretty, besides the fact that they're pretty.
Yeah, they're like, ooh, shiny.
Yeah. But let's talk about the third eye chakra.
The third eye chakra, yes. Now,
My favorite.
The third eye, there's just so many different types of things. They believe that, like, when you meditate, you can really, strengthen this. It's almost, Descartes called the third eye chakra relates to the pineal gland in the brain. And the pineal gland, to my understanding, regulates a lot of different hormones and, like, different systems. I'm not exactly sure on the science. I haven't, I forget. But he believes that René Descartes said that this is the seat of the soul, the pineal gland. And it actually looks like a little pine cone. And you find the symbolism a lot throughout, even religious traditions. I know that the one scepter that the Pope has a pine cone on it, and it refers to, that mystical knowledge, that spiritual wisdom. And, through meditating and through things, because they say that everyone's psychic, that, everyone has, what is psychic? When you're thinking about someone, then all of a sudden your phone rings and it's them. Where you feel like you're experiencing deja vu. You feel like you're just connected to something and you don't know why.
Right, it's natural. We're born with that.
Yeah.
And the amount that we can use it or have access to it depends on how much attention we give to it. But everybody can do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing with the third eye is that you can use that as a way of if you're into metaphysics and you do some research on it and you find this is something that's fascinating and you want to strengthen your third eye chakra, you meditate and you visualize different types of things. But for people that might not take it with a grain of salt, and that's okay. Everyone's entitled to their own realities, their own belief structures, but being open to the possibility that maybe there is something to this. How could that benefit me? And I think I use a different language in therapy because I don't want to scare off people, because part of my job as a therapist is to have people buy into what I'm saying. And if I'm kind of presenting something that's so foreign, that's so abstract, that it doesn't really work with them. So I try different types of techniques where, I'll say, if you meditate, like the research does show that it slows the activity of the mind. They've shown that through brain scans. They say that if you meditate for, I think it's about 20, 30 minutes a day, that you have less stress, and by having less stress, you have a longer life, because you're putting less damage on your organs, because every time you get stressed, you activate that fight or flight response. Those adrenal glands on your kidneys, they sit on top of it and they just pump out cortisol, and it just it puts us into that anxious mode. But by doing meditations and stuff, it definitely helps calm those nerves. And that's and that's one way, again, that metaphysics can be used in therapy. For someone that is open, we can explain like, hey, you're activating your third eye chakra. It's going to help you be more in tune with what's going on with you. Or we could just use it as a simple way of relaxing that mind, because that constant current of thoughts, it's never ending, and it doesn't end. But through meditation, you can actually train yourself to slow those thoughts down, and by doing so, you start addressing symptoms such as depression, symptoms such as anxiety, symptoms such as post-traumatic stress disorder.
And heightening self-awareness.
Exactly. And
I tend not to I won't use words like chakra or anything like that when I'm in session with a client. But I did try an exercise the other day, which I want us to try. It's basically meditating together with someone. And I got it from that book that I was telling you about. But I was meditating.
What's the book called?
Psychic Symbols. Her name's Melanie. I can't remember. I'll have to get the exact name. But I just got it, and I'm almost done with the book. It's great. But there's exercises in there along the way. It's to help awaken, your third eye, or meditating and heightening self-awareness, whichever way you want to look at it. But I did try it, and it was fascinating. Okay, so you sit together, you meditate. It takes at least 20 minutes to quiet the mind in meditation. And it's hard to sit even for 20 minutes. So imagine if it takes you 20 minutes to quiet the mind, how long it really takes to take you there. But it takes time to build to that point.
And some people just have a natural aptitude for this, and some people, I have a lot of clients that just say, none of that visualization, meditation type crap works for me. And a lot of times what I do is I try to explain it such as your mind is kind of like training your thoughts is kind of like riding a bike. You got to practice. You do a little bit each day, and you get a little bit better. You get a little bit stronger. So I teach my clients. I say, just take a minute of your workday where you just stop what you're doing and you pay attention to that free flow of thoughts, and be present. Because that, honestly, if you look at any of the spiritual texts, any of the new age type stuff that you find out there today, it's all about the now. Just being present. And these, this might seem like new concepts because they're putting different names on it, but these theories have been around since ancient times. I mean, a lot of this stuff comes out of ancient Eastern philosophies. And here's the piece, is that that when you learn to quiet your mind, you start to realize that there's so much more than what our thoughts create. We're constructivists. We construct our own reality, and when we create a system of thinking that feeds negativity into itself, we stay sick. And in our culture, we call it mental illness. And it's our job, Janet and mine's job as therapists, to reprogram the way people view the world. And we don't do that by telling them, how to think or what to think. Our job is a lot more subtle. It's
entertain alternative perspectives.
I'm sorry, what?
To entertain alternative perspectives.
Exactly. And I explain this all the time, that the more perspectives you have to look at a situation, the better able you are to, and here's the key word that we use in counseling all the time, cope, to deal, to just manage. Because a lot of times we can't, a lot of times we can't change situations. And it's not to say to lay down and be helpless and not be able to do anything about things, but it's more so just a way of learning to accept. And once you can get to a place of acceptance, then you start to realize the tools to aid you are at your disposal that you might not be aware of because you don't have those alternative perspectives. It's definitely, for me, what I teach in therapy, I don't teach anything that I don't practice for myself for the most part. I mean, I'm human, and, sometimes I have to exaggerate, and sometimes I have to, elaborate on things that I might not have experienced. But I mean, I think at its core, this suffering, human suffering, is universal. And I think that there are a lot of different metaphysical areas of study that could be beneficial to, either a therapist or even any person in the helping profession. But I know something new that both Jan and I have gotten into recently is tarot cards. And we've actually talked about this several times about how tarot cards can actually be used in therapy.
Mm-hmm. I used them. I actually got the idea. I think it was Corey said it the one day that he was actually using tarot cards, or was going to. I'm not sure, but I did use them. I used a traditional set of cards, and I did not, it wasn't that I was doing a reading, I was allowing her to do her own reading. We laid out the cards, she got the directions out, the little booklet that comes with it, and she laid them out, and it really got her to start thinking about where she's at and what it could possibly mean about her past. And this is someone who doesn't really open up. So it did benefit her in being able to look at her past and look where she's at today, and to see where she kind of feels that the future cards, what it meant to her, where she could be.
For someone that might not know too much about tarot cards, what would you say as just a tarot cards 101?
What would I say about the cards?
Yeah.
That it's applicable to everybody's life. It's about past, present, future, and anything in those cards could apply to any one of us. Mm-hmm. If you're going to interpret the picture on the cards or look at the meaning in the card and kind of see what jumps out to you, either way, it's about human experience, and it applies to everybody.
Yeah, I with tarot cards, the interesting thing is that there are some psychological processes going on here. There's 22 major arcana. And what the major arcana are there specific figures, people, huge concepts that basically in tarot readings refers to your destiny. Like, these are cards that you can't avoid them. And they each, but here's where psychology fits into that, is that each of those cards represents one of Carl Jung's archetypes. An archetype is basically a human characteristic that everyone has. The mother figure, the father figure, the child, all these different parts that every human person, to a certain degree, has this inside of them. And the collective unconscious, where this is what this is related to, is a whole other podcast that we probably could go into depth about. Especially with, I know Corey is very Jungian. He uses a lot of Jungian concepts in therapy. But that we can talk about that in another podcast. But basically, getting back to the tarot cards, is that if you display out a different thing, you can, if you're a skeptic and you say, how do you believe that these cards can tell you your future, or this or that kind of thing, be like, okay, that's fine. Being a skeptic is, I think, important in life, because sometimes if you're too open to, on the flip side of us, if we're too open to all these different things, then we don't really have a solid ground to stand on, and we might not be apt to basically be in reality. We're in our heads too much. We're into all these like floaty abstract concepts. But if you bring it down, if you ground it down to basics, is that if each of these cards, these 22 major arcana, represent a different feature of us, then we can project ourselves onto these cards, and we can see our story, our life, in the spread. And when we see, like on a traditional Celtic cross, you have two cards in the middle, and basically refers to the current situation that you're in, the dilemma or whatever. And then above it, you have a cross around it. So above it, you have what your ideal is, and below it, you have what your outside influences are. And then you have your recent past, and then your future, your present, or your future present. And then on the side of it, you have three cards that are going up along the right side, which refers to your environment, your people that are influencing you, your hopes and your fears, and your most likely outcome. So if you're hearing, I'm sure that you can kind of put together some of these thoughts yourself. But if you are, if you have a card here and it's talking about certain themes, a lot of times we can project ourselves onto these cards and say, like, yeah, I can relate to that to a certain degree, and whether you say, yes, this is because the cards told me this, so therefore it's true, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it just as a fact of, this is helping me kind of explore areas of my life that I might not normally think about, which is basically the concept behind traditional talk therapy, is really opening up and exploring things and looking at things again through another perspective, which is exactly what you were talking about.
Right, or even if it doesn't apply to you and the person feels that it doesn't apply to them, it's still getting them to think about themselves. and how come it doesn't apply? So they're still kind of exploring who they are and where they're at and what their feelings are. So I think it's useful, whether you see it as a card game or just a therapeutic exercise or having a tarot reading done.
Yeah.
Either way, it still has kind of meaning.
And I know for for youth, I mean, it can be a very good projective tool because a lot of times adolescents aren't open to the therapy process. I mean, and it's understandable. I mean, you're basically asking your child to open up to a complete stranger about topics that he or she might not understand or doesn't want to understand to a certain degree. And here we are saying, hey, let's do a tarot card reading. And they've seen it in a movie and they're like, oh, you can see my future. All of a sudden you have something to talk about. And I think that's important in therapy, is to have to build that rapport, that relationship, because it's through that relationship that healing occurs. I'm Rogerian. Carl Rogers is my guy when it comes to mental health, and he basically believed that it's through positive, basically believing that I'm sorry, I'm like clever. He really is my hero, but getting back into metaphysics. I'm trying to think.
I want to mention just a quick exercise that I got from that book.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of like you sit together with the person. You don't have to make any physical contact, and it's just a fun little exercise to do. And I did do it in session, and it was very productive. And you're both sitting just, as if you were going into your meditative position, whatever that might be, and you start trying to send a message and an emotion. The emotion is what you're really focusing on. Pick a moment in time where there was a very strong emotion attached to it. So we did this, and I was sending the emotion first. And whether it's believable or not, the person was able to tell me the feeling of fear that I was sending. She was able to pick the feeling out. She identified that, and she also identified how many persons were involved with the sending of the message. So whether that's just happened to be the connection that was in the room at the time, or it was a lucky guess, however you want to look at it. But this person was able to pick up, again, on the emotion and kind of vague details of the message being sent. So it was a fun exercise, and it worked out, and Well,
I mean, anything that has to do with understanding emotions, especially understanding someone else's emotion, or just general theories. I mean, we have smile charts in our offices that says, which happy face are you?
I haven't seen those in a while.
Yeah, I have one posted on my desk, and I usually get made fun of a little bit sometimes, but I think that if you know what your emotional state is, because so many people aren't cognizant of that, they're not aware of it. So we have
the automatic response when you say to somebody, so how are you doing today? Good. Well, what's good mean? It's just an automatic response, not really giving the response of what you're really feeling.
Our the mind's defense mechanisms against protecting us from things that we don't want to address in fear, again, it's a system that feeds itself, and through meditation and through mindfulness activities, through activating your third eye chakra, through whatever type practice it is that you're doing, anything that brings awareness, to that voice behind the thoughts, because we're not. We think we're our thoughts. We do. We think we're a bad person because I'm thinking bad things about so and so. But I reinforce this time and time again with clients, with people, with friends, with family, with anyone that I talk. I try not to be a therapist with everyone in my life, but I say it does. It's unavoidable sometimes. But I say thinking doesn't make someone bad. Behaving makes someone bad, and it's trying to make that distinction between what you do is 100% different than what you think. Like, you can think all the worst thoughts in the world about someone. I mean, granted, you're hurting yourself because you're spending all this time in negative energy, but ultimately speaking, just because you think ill will towards someone, it's not reality. And again, here's where teaching alternate perspectives, that where are these negative thoughts coming from? Because that's a topic that can be explored. You have different. I find that metaphysical topics are an area that some clients are actually more open than you think. You talk about angels in session, and all of a sudden you're in this whole conversation about how they believe that they had a guardian angel protect them in a certain situation, and how a loved one had passed away, and they always feel like they're watching over them. And then there you go into grief issues. These are a lot of. Again, it's being open to it, and a lot of times too, it's that taboo. It's like you're not supposed to talk about these things. You're not supposed to talk about what happens after you die, or you're not supposed to talk about the devil. It's but it's one of those things that there's thousands of books on it. There's lots of people that are interested in this stuff, and I
think because there's no concrete proof. And I think that's why it makes those topics taboo. There's nothing that you can look at it and say this is absolutely 1 + 1. So people will kind of ignore signs or messages or their thoughts or what their feelings are. Like you said, their loved one passed away and they feel like they're watching over them. Maybe they are. So.
Yeah, I find taking an open stance. People can lie, people can twist the truth around, and sometimes they don't even know they're doing it. But here's the thing: as a therapist, like my job is not to judge you. My job is to help you understand yourself better, because it's through that greater self-awareness that you become more whole of a person. Maslow calls it the self-actualized person. The best version of yourself that you can possibly be. And for some people, this metaphysical topic area might just not work for them at all. They're very strong in their Christian beliefs, or they're strong in their Jewish beliefs, or Muslim, whatever,
and that's
okay, because again, we create our own realities.
Right.
And as a therapist, my job is to work in their reality.
Meet you where you're at.
And sometimes you don't have that option to go there. But with clients that are open to those things, and you don't know until you ask or you make a comment. So a lot of times I just start off with, "Do you pray? What do you pray about?"
Do you really?
I do.
Oh,
I ask clients that all the time, and I say, and I use that kind of just as an understanding of like where they are mentally, spiritually, and stuff, because I believe that prayer is an amazing form of self-awareness, because if you're praying, then you're acknowledging something outside of your thinking, and any type of awareness that pulls you out of your future thinking, which is anxiety, or your past thinking, which could be depression. When you pull yourself out of that muck, you find out that all that time that you spent obsessing or thinking or worrying or being in misery about, was self-made. People catastrophize things, and they're not even going to happen. But it's our job as therapists to kind of give them that, to give them that feedback, to just be like, maybe here's another perspective.
And reawaken hope. I think a lot of times the people we interact with have lost hope, and they stay stuck in that negative state of mind, like you mentioned.
Metaphysical topics. And all this stuff you can Google. I'm trying to think here. We have tarot cards, we have crystals, we have chakras. What else do we have? I'm missing things. Angels, chakras, crystals. I'm just trying to think of things. Honestly, like I got into this world in September of 2014. I went to see a psychic, and the psychic was a charlatan. He just wanted my money.
You gotta go to Arlene Duncan.
Don't go to a psychic in a major city, because they're just trying to pay their rent. No, you do not need to light a candle for $100 a day to get rid of your ex from your soul.
You poor thing.
I know. Well, no, I didn't pay it, but I paid for him to tell me that.
Yeah.
So, but it's finding meaning in those simple things, because if I didn't have that experience, then he wouldn't have overcharged me for a pocket amethyst crystal. But it was through that crystal that really awakened this world, this passion. And it's something that I just can't stop talking about. It really isn't. I know me and Janet have had conversations about this for hours. And it's one of those things where there's this whole world out there that we don't know about, and people try to understand it, and some people understand it through traditional religions, and some people that's not enough for them. And I think that those are the times where introducing things from other different we'll just call them realms of possibility, we'll say. Even
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So you can have talk about how be a Scientologist and how the aliens came to the volcanoes and erupted, and they're fragments in her. I'm not really sure how that works.
I'm not sure either.
Ask
Scientology.
Tom, ask Tom Cruise. I'm sure he'll be able to explain it better. But and I think that it's a good thing for people to try to understand existence, and that's a whole line of therapy in and of itself. Existentialism, the meaning of life, like the
That's
purpose.
what it's all about. Meaning of life. Find your meaning.
What's your meaning of life?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
No, what's yours?
Oh, my meaning of life.
Yeah, what's yours?
That's still work in progress. I mean, I don't think it's ever something that we're going to be completely, it's concrete. This is what it is. So you continue learning from the moment of conception. You continue learning and figuring out what life means to you. But I feel that it's more than this.
I think I found a concrete answer. I think for
Really?
me, yeah.
Okay.
I think I find that my purpose in life is to learn, is to learn all the lessons that I can and to share joy and to experience life and, that self-actualization, be the best version of the person I am, that sole purpose. Like, why am I here? I know for me, being here is, I want to share the good news, the good message that there is hope, there is love, there are good people out there. And I've experienced the dark, I've experienced the light, and I found a way to balance that for myself, and I want to share that with everyone who wants to know about this. And I know for me, the meaning of my life is to experience joy, is to learn, and to not stop growing.
Openness.
Well, thanks for listening to the podcast. This ends episode 4 on metaphysics. Please feel free to listen to our other podcasts.
Thanks for listening, guys. Catch you next time.